Let me tell you why I hate Chad. I have been doing.
Let me tell you why I hate my co-host.
Right. So I've been doing, digital art for 5 years now, and Chad picks up a digital tablet, buys the program. He's like, you know what? I think I'm going to try coloring. I kid you not. The next thing he posts on Facebook, like a week later, is the cover of The Silence hardback cover, and I'm like, you make me sick. Like, are you serious? This looks like something straight out of Marvel or DC. Like, what are you doing with, good grief? And so this is why number 247, why I hate Chad.
That's why I am doing what I am doing now, is because my friend Brian said, help me make a YouTube video for my Kickstarter. And every single one after that, I keep pushing myself, talking to Chad and doing stuff for him, using techniques that I had never done before. And like every single time, every single video that I make for anybody, it's like, let's do something new. And that on top of that delivery that you were talking about, where it's like you hand it to somebody and they're like, yeah, this is exactly what I thought, or like you're saying, this is more than what I thought could think of in my head. That's gold. That's what is going to keep you like getting up and putting in the work every day.
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes Podcast, a show that celebrates all things nerdy. You'll get an insider's look into the world of comic books, graphic novels, TV and film, gaming and pop culture, as well as the technologies that drive all of it. Now, are you ready to get nerdy?
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes Podcast, the show about all things nerdy. We discuss nerd news, movies, TV shows, games, comics, and so much more. I'm Brian.
I'm Chad.
I'm Jeremy.
I hate you both. Brace yourselves. We're about to get nerdy. All right, folks. It never does. And yes, my hatred just grows. This week's guest has been a graphic artist and illustrator for 25 years and has experience in developing a diverse range of artwork for a variety of publications and productions, including promotional and pitch graphics for independent film productions in the United States and the UK. He has also worked on tribute films and independent films and has created over 200 covers for independent authors. Ladies and gentlemen, the master of the cover art, Jeffrey Hayes.
You said everything that I told you to say, and none of it was true.
Thank you. I expect my check to be in the mail, sir.
That was some beautiful alliteration there.
Thanks. I realized
awesome.
In the middle of it that it was way too much, and I was like, oh, I'm going to tongue-tied.
This is uncomfortable.
Oh, Jeffrey, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How about you guys?
Doing all right.
Doing good.
Awesome.
So 2021 is treating you well then?
Much better than 2020.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope that is most people's story. So, cool, man. Well, let's jump in. First of all, we would like to knight you as an honorary dingo, sir.
It's true.
I've been waiting for this.
Indeed. Change your business cards, update your website. This is a big deal. All right. So now you are
It's on my resume.
Sir Dingo Jeffrey Hayes. That is who you are.
Thank you.
That is
Good.
indeed. But a couple questions we ask everybody.
Sure.
First of all, Jeff, what kind of nerd are you?
That's interesting. I would call myself a visual entertainment nerd, sans gaming. Movies, comics, television, mostly movies though. Gaming time is better spent art time. And so, and I spent my son, matter of fact, all of you are my son's age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My son's 35. And so I've had many years of dad want to watch me play this game. Dad want to watch me play this game. So I've watched him play many games and realized that's not something I could get into.
Right. Well, you've been very kind to Chad. He's actually 64.
I was really, thank you for that compliment.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a new segment we're going to introduce called Begging and Pleading. is where we're going to hit you with facts like we've had over 25,000 views on our channel, which is amazing, but only 10% of those people have subscribed to our show, which means we've got the vast majority of people coming and watching and then leaving. We want you to come and want you to watch our videos, but if you like it, just take the time to click on the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification, share with your friends. It means a lot, and it helps us to continue to do what we're doing. Have you done it yet? Okay, go ahead. I'll wait. Please. Please. Just subscribe, please. We've got shows coming out almost every day. We're doing movie reviews, TV show reviews, comic book reviews. We are interviewing all kinds of indie creators about the process and what it's like to market yourself in this age in the digital world, tackling tough topics like imposter syndrome and what it's like to be a nerd. All right, end of rant. Back to the show. So you mentioned movies. What are your top 5?
So I think Brian knows some of these because I've mentioned them before. But Star Wars, the original 1977 Star Wars. Stood in line to see it. Is my favorite. Halloween is a big favorite of mine. Yes. And I've even, in doing a little fun young filmmaking, kind of copied it and did some very bad. You'll never see it. I'm just putting it that way. You'll never see it.
It's tucked away in the closet somewhere.
That's right. You'll never, ever see it. It's like on a VHS tape that I think is eroded beyond repair. So we'll just leave it at that.
Well, Jeremy can do wonders. I think he could probably restore it for you if you really want to.
Yeah. Okay, if you can bring it back from ashes, I can do that. Yeah. You got to find a working VCR. I think it's on beta, if I'm not mistaken. Super 8. Yeah, silent Super 8. I'll just put it.
Silent Super
Awesome.
8. A challenge.
Let's see. Lord of the Rings. I think I told you that before. The original Alien is like one of my favorite of all time. It's one of the. I've never ever gone to a movie as a young adult and been scared. Just absolutely out of my chair. And that movie did it. So I love that movie. And I'll say, if it's on TV or I'm flipping channels and it happens to be on anything, I'll stop and watch it because I love it. Yeah. And then, I love almost all the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, but and that's probably my Star Wars and Marvel are my favorite. So I hate even saying I'm a Disney fan. I'm a Disney fan. I never thought I would say that. But Captain America, Winter Soldier, and the original Captain America are pretty close. But Winter Soldier is probably in my top 5.
Nice. Yeah, Robin Hood, Disney's Robin Hood is probably one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. Just ask Brian. That's for another time. Jeff, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Chad, hold on one second.
Yes.
You said almost all. And that means that you said, I love almost all of the MCU movies. That means that there are some that you would not like. I would like to know that.
I like them all, but I don't like them all the same. Yeah. I guess was it Dark World? I'm not a big fan.
Oh, Thor 2?
Yeah, the second Thor. I love the third one. I'm trying to think through them all. I'm not a big fan of Iron Man
3.
Yeah. I love the first Iron Man. That was another one of those movies where I went, watched it, and didn't even realize that I was seeing something completely revolutionary, meaning I grew up on Marvel Comics and I was an Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men fan, 70s, a little bit into the 80s. And then after I left with a friend and my son and a friend of mine, I sat there for a second and I thought, holy crud, I just watched something on a screen that's been in my head after looking at a comic my whole life. Mm-hmm. And so when Captain America came out, I couldn't have stopped grinning because I love Captain America. Mm-hmm. And then when Winter Soldier came out, I just thought the flavor, I have to throw soundtrack nerd in there if you want to, if you call movie nerd. I'm a big soundtrack nerd. I probably, a glance over at my other computer screen, I have probably 300 downloaded soundtracks, and I listen to them. That's all I listen to when I do artwork. Nice. And so the soundtrack to Winter Soldier and all of that just launched it so much higher than other movies in the MCU. But I'm telling you, you're not likely to disappoint me if you say, sit down and watch this MCU movie. I'll still watch it and be happy.
Right.
But like WandaVision right now, I love, because the way it is absolutely wild. And I never would dream they would be able to do something like that. And it's entertaining. It's completely different. And now it's ramping up with the mystery coming to its fruition. Again, I'm a Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's probably my favorite. Star Wars is, Mandalorian. That but the recent movies, I'm not a fan. And I'm not one of those guys that gets mad, that's not my Star Wars. I just didn't like the story. And I thought they did a poor job of creating a story arc that was solid, like the previous movies had.
Yeah.
I'm a big Luke Skywalker fan. And so I wanted, although I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't like kind of his heroic ending. I love heroic endings, so that was, but you don't put it in the second movie of the trilogy. Yeah. I just felt I would love to have seen that Luke's story, Leia's story, completely. Then turn it over to something else. Turn it over to their kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry about that.
Just go ahead and
the phone right next to me. Yes.
I thought it was a really strange choice to kill off the person who had died and keep the person, or kill off the person who is alive and keep the person who was dead. Right?
Yeah, it was very weird.
Like they kept her on. It was like,
and the thing that bugged me was they had the perfect moment.
Yeah.
To just let her go. Up. She blew up. Her son killed her, which makes him worse. I know, right? So that would have been perfect. And then she went all Leia Poppins in the middle of space. And I was like, what's happening here? Okay. I mean, I will say this. I enjoy the sequel trilogy. I do agree with you. I think the sequel trilogy's weakness was the prequel trilogy's strength, and vice versa.
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree.
I think the acting, the dialogue, the score. The score is always good because John Williams is amazing. But the acting, just the intensity, the special effects, everything was just spot on in the sequel trilogy. And the story was lacking because of the weird multiple directors, not a clear vision thing. But the prequels was the opposite. The acting was because of Anakin, but the story was just so strong because George
Lucas was perfect,
great storyteller.
And it was again, like the original trilogy, was a beautiful story from the beginning of that first movie to the end of the third. That was completely lacking in this. And I understand, or I believe, why it happened. I get that, but I just choose not to. So I have a very good friend who is a fan, and I just tell him I just don't acknowledge it. I don't, it's not that I hate it. I'm gonna bag on it, on online or anything like that. I love Rogue One. I mean, I got so excited when that movie, it was it was, I know a lot of people hate it, but I loved it. I thought it was great. And I love the scene at the end and how they bridged it and all that. I love all that. And Mandalorian is just blowing my mind. So
Mandalorian is, I think, the best thing to come out of, and I will say this, absolutely loving Clone Wars, Rebels,
me too.
The prequels. It's the best thing to come out of Star Wars since Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. I love. My son has never watched Clone Wars or Rebels, and he's a psychotic Star Wars fan. I mean, he is. But he loves the prequels. Matter of fact, all that's sitting here behind me are models of Rebels ships, and cool. I love matter of fact, I think Dave Filoni is like super awesome. And I think he gets Star Wars, and I think he also is creative in that universe, bringing some very unique, just some a way of looking at characters and a way of looking at the mythos, if you will. He's got it, and I know he's very good friends with George, and I know he's been, was mentored by him and everything, but that guy is so clued in, and Jon Favreau is a fan who is clued in. So until they do something wrong, they can do no wrong in my book,
Yeah. To me, in my opinion, I feel like they just need to give the reins over to both of those guys and let them be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars.
Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. I would be so thrilled. And Rebels, and everybody says, oh, it's a kids movie. No, it's kids show. No, it's not. And I love Rebels. The last 3 episodes are so, okay, I'm man enough to admit that I cried, and when
I did too.
So it's a beautiful story, and that's true. The scene, spoilers. The scene where that sacrifice is made, in an animated. The expressions, the music, everything was beautifully done. And even at the end, when Thrawn and all the Ezra, thank you. Ezra, he kind of sacrifices it. Beautifully done. All of it's great. And now that all of that's going to come into live action, I'm so excited.
When Ahsoka and the Mandalorian. And we could do a whole episode just on this. When Ahsoka looks at, in that episode of Mandalorian, when she's fighting with the Kyber crystal spear and everything, or not Kyber crystal, but you know what I mean, the spear. And she looks at her and she just says, "Where is General Thrawn?" I was like,
I know.
Yes.
I was floored. I got
so excited. I was like, yes.
I do a lot of yelling in my living room, when that show is concerned. But
you know what? Like we are nerds, correct? Like all of us here present. This is our sports.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like you get people that go to B-dubs and they scream and they, oh yeah, this is great. Oh yeah. And they cuss when things go bad and all that stuff. That's us when it comes to movies.
So I did a little cussing when the X-Wing landed in the, I was by myself watching this show, and all I kept saying was, as it developed, the moment that the lightsaber ignited, I said to myself, no effing way.
Yes.
But I didn't say effing. And I went, and I said it like 4 times, and I wasn't proud of myself. And then the more it went on, the more excited I got and the louder I got. And I'm immediately texting my son, get up out of bed early. You got to, and so anyway, that's cool. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars nerd. So
all right. Well, we'll have you back on to talk about Star Wars. Definitely. Because
all day.
Yes. All right. We'll move ahead though.
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
You're fine. This is great.
So we talked about your top 5 movies. What about your top 5 movie posters?
So since I'm old, I get to go back a little bit farther, but that's tough because movie posters really influence me. Probably more in my artwork more than comics did. However, that's where, comics, all of us, artists that are nerds get into comics. So I would say Apocalypse Now, the first movie poster, is one of the ones that, I just couldn't, even younger, I kept looking at it and became a Bob Peak fan because of that. And then learned that I was a Bob Peak fan earlier in the 70s, didn't even know that I was. And I can explain that later. But The Thing by Drew Struzan, The original poster. I've seen many beautiful subsequent posters, but the original one, it's so simple, it's so clean. And once I learned the story behind it and how he had to essentially do it overnight, it's always fascinated me.
Now we are talking about John Carpenter's The Thing, right? Or
yes, I apologize. Yes.
You're fine. Yeah, because there was one from the 60s, right?
Yeah,
Black and white one, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. Is it the one where he's standing and light is coming out from his head?
Yes. He had little or no information. He had a very, very little information about the show, and he had to do the poster overnight. And I think that is such a beautiful and simple, clean and striking image. It's I love it. I've always loved it. It is. It's horrible because you have no idea what's happening, but you can see that something intense is happening to that guy. And when I saw the movie, which I would have put it, honestly, it's in my top 10. It just didn't fall in my top 5. Mm-hmm. Again, one of the movies that terrified me. I saw it because I was a John Carpenter fan, but individually, it is a terrifying film. It's a simple, terrifying film. And I love simplicity. Don't overcomplicate things for me. I love a clean, simple film like that. And that was beautifully done.
Did you see the prequel that they made?
It's
called The Thing. It was the one that was made in the
yes. Yeah. Most recently.
Yeah.
So yes, didn't enjoy it as much because they're kind of just retelling the story, but the effects were beautiful. Yeah. But again, that even made me admire the older effects even more because what they were able to do in practical in-camera stuff is amazing.
Yeah. I think The Thing is probably one of the best movies to show off practical effects.
Yeah.
Especially from the 80s. Like it's it has that like terrifying, weird, like I don't know how to describe it. Like just like it's not natural looking. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's real, but it also really doesn't look like it's fake.
The alien design is so out there. I don't think you ever saw anything that insane at the time. I mean, Alien had been out, and Aliens, I think, had been out before then, maybe not, but and that was very unique in Geiger-esque look and all. But the creature looked so terrifying in its many ways, especially when you could look at it and identify the dogs. You could identify the man and that kind of thing. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. I'm a big Drew Struzan fan, so pretty much anything, not everything, but pretty much anything he does is always beautiful and striking. But the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the original kind of tan brown one, I think is just beautiful. I love that one. And he has done so many beautiful Raiders and Indiana Jones paintings, but that's one. I guess I put these on my lists as I go because I remember looking at them and staring at them in a theater. It wasn't like you jump on the internet. It's always like you're standing in line, you're waiting for something, and you see it, and you stare at it. And I don't remember the movie we saw, but I remember when the Raiders poster was in the Fox Cinema and down in Austin, it was there on the wall. And I was going like, oh my gosh, that's Han Solo. Oh my gosh, this has got to be good. What is it? Yeah. And I just stared at it and loved it. I'm trying to think of the artist's name, but I can't remember. The Blade Runner poster. Blade Runner is probably one of my faves.
Like the one that has like the above the building shot.
Yeah. And it shows the light coming out. That's classic. God, his name is right on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't think of it right this second. And then the original Nightmare on Elm Street by not Bob Peak. Oh, Matthew Peak. That I love. First of all, the style in it, but I love the. It's one that made me go see the movie. And when you see it, you go, "I'm going to see that movie," because it looked terrifying. Yeah. Even the everything from the eyeball and all of that stuff, and it didn't even really give away Freddy. The claws were there, but it didn't. And so that's probably, I love that style. I love 80s painted posters. Yeah. And I do emulate that when I can. I can't always do it, but I try to emulate it when I can.
Yeah. And I think, and this shows the power of font, talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember when I was a kid going through, a video store. Video stores, kids, were places where you went inside and there were a lot of movies that it was like Netflix, but a store. But I remember like wandering through the video store and going down the horror aisle, and that cover always terrified me. But it wasn't the eyeball, it wasn't the claws, it was the font. The font alone scared me. Yeah. And this is, I told the guys earlier, like, if you know this, I'm a huge horror fan now. Mm-hmm. When I was a child, I was a huge pansy, and everything scared me. So it's not that impressive that a font scared me, but like that shows, like, that is the power of choosing a good font for a cover, is that matters, because that was what stuck out to me the first. And I intentionally avoided that movie for a little while because I was like, no, it's scary. Look at that font.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned earlier, Apocalypse Now. In my mind, I can't really picture every detail of the cover, but that font. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I know that font.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even The Thing, I mean, it's blocky and simple, but it's
iconic.
Yeah, it stands out.
Yeah.
No, typography and the illustration work of the 80s is, I love. Go back to Halloween, when the original movie poster is so simple again and so powerful, as is the opening to Halloween. But I love, even in that earlier 80s when they were hand painting and hand drawing the typography, and people now, copy it and you can go download it as a font here or there for whatever movie. Yeah. But how many of those were just hand painted? I love that kind of stuff. If you can combine that stuff, even when doing book covers, I always go crazy when I'm just doing the illustration, because I like doing the title graphics as well, because I try to meld them all together. Yeah. But when you work for a publisher, it's do the illustration and say at the end, as you're handing it in kind of thing, who's doing the title graphics,
Yeah.
Because I'd like to be able to have a hand in it.
Right. Well, let's switch gears just a little bit. We've kind of already got into this a bit. Tell us your story, Jeff. How did you get into graphic? Take us to little child Jeff, wandering through the movie theaters, looking at all these amazing posters. How did you get from that point to where you are now?
So when I was a kid, the only real like comics and fan stuff I was, I had G.I. Joe. The original G.I. Joe action figure, not the little tiny figures that you guys play with.
These guys,
they're real man-sized. No, I'm sorry, but so
the man's Barbie doll.
That's right. There's a story that just popped into my head that I refuse to tell. Anyway.
Let's our imagination fill in the blanks, shall we?
Yeah, go ahead. It'll be Anyway, so my grandfather used to take me to get my hair cut when I had hair, and we went to this little pharmacy. It's like a little pharmacy and barber shop, and the barber would always say, if you sit here, let me cut your hair. Don't give me any trouble. You can take home any comic books over there on the table. And the ones that he would buy are the Gold Key, the Dell, that early 60s, mid 60s kind of stuff. So I would, always get military comics, Lone Ranger, things like that. So that was kind of my early comic book introduction. But I really became a Star Trek fan, I would say, in the early 70s after it had gone off the air, and it was in reruns. And my best friend, my oldest friend, and I used to make little comic books and little fan magazines and things like that throughout the 70s. And as I was in high school in the late 70s, we started playing role-playing games, tabletop strategy games, things like that. So I was into gaming that way, I enjoy storytelling, and that's why I like role-playing games. I like the story. As a matter of fact, I was more often a game master, if you will, than a player, because I like creating the stories, drawing the maps, drawing the characters, things like that. And I there was a local company here called Metagaming. It existed, I think, through the 70s and early 80s. And I just decided to go, knock on the door, walk in the front door and say, hey, do y'all need any help doing anything? I'd be interested in doing anything, kind of like an internship, if you will. And they put me to work. I got to do, I had to, do you have any art to show us? Of course, I'm like, duh, no, I just wanted to come in, and so they sent me home, maybe do some artwork, bring it back. And excuse me. And the owner, who was a really brilliant guy, matter of fact, he used to translate Russian radio transmissions, and he could speak Russian fluently. And he was he was into computers, very early on as a programmer. And so he created all these games and with others that worked there. And right as I started, unfortunately, there was a split, kind of the two top creatives, couldn't see eye to eye. You get two very strong guys. So they split. But I came in the door, and they let me work on the monthly or quarterly little magazine. So I got some good experience doing that. I did line art. The terminology they used is $1 per square inch. Okay. And of course, in your head, you think, oh, okay, if I do an 8x10, it's going to be $1 per square inch. That's a pretty good, a little bit of money there, in 1980, 82. And then when I turn it in and it gets printed or used, I find out that it's $1 per square inch of what it ends up being. Oh, so it could be $1 or $1 to $4. I never made probably more than $4 for a piece of line art. Oh. But I did that up until let's see, that was in 82, and I started. That was actually a lot of good experience because I learned a lot of formatting. Old school formatting, running stuff through a waxer, rolling it onto a page on anything, that's useless skills today because everything's done in a computer. But
so you were the computer. That's what that was. You did
absolutely.
All that stuff. That's awesome.
Working on a photo machine that was about 7 feet long and 5 feet wide. That kind of stuff just is hilarious because it doesn't even need to exist today. Yeah. And I'd give anything if I had the equipment that I have today. But it was good experience. I still used a lot of the layout that I learned, all learning from them, self-taught kind of stuff. And one of the company that split off was Steve Jackson Games. They're still around. And I did some I think one color piece. And they used to have counters, paper counters. Yes, they were the little gaming pieces. And I would paint those. A guy would do the line art and I would paint them with inks. Did that freelance. I never actually, while I worked for this grocery company. And the grocery company, which is was a Texas based and one of the fastest growing in Texas, the boss I had there was very sharp man. He would get to know people, understand their skills, understand their talents, and then he would put them in places to utilize them. And I ended up doing commercial art from 82 to 1987. And it was boring as heck, but I got paid really good. Matter of fact, I got paid better than anybody should have. Yeah. When the minimum wage was $2.75, they bumped me up to $10.25. Oh, wow. So I was a young kid with my own apartment, a new car, and too much money. Yeah. And did not have any idea on how to invest or anything like that. So it was a waste. But I did everything from displays to, painting a steak and ground meat and all that crazy stuff. But it was good experience. And then about in the late 80s, I started. So I was into a little bit of filmmaking, and I mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. Again, you'll never see it, and I'll never, ever show it. But we did a little bit of that, had a little bit of fun doing that. Did a show that was semi-superhero-ish called The Vindicator, which was the Punisher, just a straight ripoff of the Punisher.
Yes. So where is that available on YouTube? Can we?
No, it isn't. We did get it transferred to video, but I buried it somewhere.
Boo! Oh,
no, you'll never see it. It's horrid. It's too horrid to even. It's so horrid. Anyway,
what was the title of that again?
It was
Chad.
You'll never find it.
Oh, I'm gonna find it.
Unless you would have to break into my house. Yeah, challenge the government.
Dingoes heist. Let's do it, guys.
Yes, I like it.
It's horrid. Oof. Yeah, I wish it was something I could say, oh, yeah, I uploaded it on YouTube and it's so funny to watch. I wouldn't even, it's just gross. Anyway, but I was interested in it. And I had a friend named James Wilburn, who was really good. He actually ended up, he had a friend that lived in Hollywood. Literally, the apartment complex was called the Hollywood something apartments, and he had a 2-bedroom apartment. He was a musician. He did scores for TV shows, commercials, things like that. Mm-hmm. And James always kept saying, "Come on, dude, let's move to Hollywood." And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great." Well, when I was doing that, I was doing the Vindicator project, and that sounds like really cool. Then yes, the Vindicator project. But I met a lot of police officers and friends that I made during that time, and like the night before. This is terrible, but the night before we were going to hop in his car and drive out to California. I was sitting there in my living room, and I said, I think I want to be a cop. And it was just like a weird revelation. And so I started calling people and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. This, blah blah blah." And of course, I have to call him, and I say, "Hey, James, good luck, but I'm not going to move to." Hollywood
the night before. Oh,
yeah. I was a sorry friend for that. But
me and 2 of my friends were supposed to join the military. This was in 2004, 5, something like that. Same deal. The night before, I text my friend Brian. You know him, Matt McCullough.
Oh,
text.
He actually did join the military.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
And I was like, I'm gonna have to pass.
He's like, hard pass, bro, but good luck. You know.
And they had even like set up this whole thing where we were gonna like go through boot camp together, so that we wouldn't feel so alone.
Oh, I didn't know how bad of a friend you were.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Terrible. There was another guy, but he went to the Marines and
yeah, Travis.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right. When your back's against the wall, you make those decisions, and it's like
when your back's against the wall, abandon all friends.
That's right. Yeah. He did okay. He ended up dating Courtney Cox for a little bit, a couple of times.
Perfect.
He there was a show. It was one of the first shows she was in, and something Misfits of Science. No, that I don't know. Anyway, he worked on that show. He ended up working on it, met her, dated her a couple of times, didn't work out. But he did a lot of work. And then, like I've heard several years back, that he ended up moving back to Texas. He didn't stay in the business. It isn't as easy, as I suppose as they want you to believe, but no, he was a really good filmmaker, and
Misfits of Science.
Yeah, Misfits of Science.
Yeah,
is that it?
Mm-hmm.
And he worked as a PA on there for a while. Matter of fact, the first couple of weeks they weren't paying him, and the director or the producer, bought him tennis shoes. That was his payment, because the guy had so much energy. He would just go run everywhere, and he had cruddy old some vans that he'd worn holes in and ripped it apart. So the guy got him some new tennis shoes, and then he started getting paid and worked for years. But I ended up continuing working for that grocery company, doing artwork, and then started riding out with some friends on duty while they were on duty. Matter of fact, I rode pretty much every Friday and Saturday night, where a lot of the officers on the shifts decided I needed a girlfriend because I was riding too much. And 80, then we hit 89, and I just went to the academy, got a job as a police officer, and worked for 30 years as a police officer. But I never stopped doing artwork. I was constantly using art in some way or another in police work. I would design patches, I would design badges, I've written history books on departments and use that kind of stuff. So I did that about 2006, and that's the internet's rolling, and so I get on the internet one day, and I learn about Star Wars fan films. So I start looking into these Star Wars fans. Oh my gosh, this is so good! This is so great, and I was still kind of interested in Star Trek, but not as much as Star Wars. But I looked online, and I saw this one group up in upstate New York. Well, first there was a group out in California, and I hooked up with them, did a little bit of artwork to help them promote their project. But that led to this group up in upstate New York. I guess there was a connection there with the one in California, and the producer learned of the stuff I was doing and invited me to do it for his project, which at that time was called Star Trek New Voyages. And the amount of attention to detail, there's a whole lot of story behind this, but the guy, James Cawley, he was one of the best Elvis impersonators in the United States. And this guy was clearing a lot of money every year. He's called one of the Star Trek's biggest fans because he's worked for Star Trek: The Next Generation. He met costumers, set designers. He was given as a present a original roll of blueprints for the set design of the original series.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, he's got so much stuff. It's now in a museum. They have a museum there, and it's sponsored by or okayed by CBS. They've had the remaining stars go there. He's living the dream, the fan dream. But James invited me up there. They had recreated the bridge. If you ever get a chance, just look up Star Trek New Voyages on YouTube, or they even transitioned to Star Trek Phase 2 there toward the end. But they had recreated the sets. I thought that was anybody that put that kind of attention to detail into the work got me excited. Yeah. So I took a trip, drove up to upstate New York. They invited me just to come to this one film that they were doing. It was called A World Enough in Time. And I was the set photographer for that. And I got to meet George Takei. And let me tell you, I didn't know how cool that was going to be. But a lot of that crew that did that particular episode, if you will, came from California. So I got to meet a lot of guys that have been on Babylon 5. The writer of one of the writers of Babylon 5, Sliders, Sliders.
Yeah.
The show or
the TV show, Sliders. And so Mark Zicree is his name. He was the producer and director for this. And he's a character. And again, when I was doing the set photography, it was very funny because he would say, he would tell this to everybody, don't bother George Takei when I was imitating him. Oh my God, it just slipped out. Sorry. Yeah. So this guy, he would say, he talks like this and we're making magic here, people. This is exactly how he's, and he says, but don't bother George. Don't talk to George. We've got him for a limited time. He's going to be in this thing. Don't mess, just don't mess around and get him mad or anything like that. Yeah. Well, his dressing room, if you will, was right next to my little photo booth backdrop I created. And so he would have to walk through my functioning area to get to his little dressing room. Well, he's a great guy. Yeah. And he would stop and he would talk. And he goes, when we were introduced, the night he showed up, we were all on the bridge of the Enterprise. It was pretty awesome. And we're all on the bridge and he's standing there and everybody's going, it's George Takei. And so they're introduced. He asks, he's such a genuine guy. And he says, and where are you from? And where are you from? And where are you from? And these people are upstate New York, Scotland, all over the place. Wow. So he comes to me and I'm standing there holding the camera. I've been taking photographs and he goes, and you? And I go, I'm from Texas. Oh, George Bush country. and one of my real close friends, he goes, he's from Austin. He's okay. And I was like, okay. And he goes, oh, Austin. I love Austin. But the whole time during the 2 weeks of the shoot, he would call me Texas, because he couldn't remember my name. So but he remembered the Texas. So he kept calling me Texas. But one night about 2:30 in the morning, I was sitting on this little director's chair kind of thing just off stage, because I would jump in, take pictures, when I could. And there was another one sitting there. Well, he had to take a break for them to strike the set and get it set up for the next shot. And he comes in and he sits down right next to me. And so I'm sitting there and I'm remembering in my head, don't talk to George. And I kept thinking, okay, this is going to be weird if I just sit here like an idiot, And so I said, I just looked at him. I said, man, y'all were really good in that scene. They just had done a highly emotional scene. As a matter of fact, he has to yell out and cry during this scene.
Oh, wow.
Well, they do it like 4 times. And every single time he brings an energy to it that is equal each time and intense each time. And he cries each time. So I'm off stage going like, okay, I was never really so impressed by actors than I am right now. Yeah. Because I didn't know this is something you had to do all the time. I never put it in that context. And so I told him, I said, that was a really great scene. And he goes, oh, thank you. And then we just started talking, and we talked for about 45 minutes. Nicest guy in the world.
That's cool.
That was a long story. Sorry about that. So
that was a great story.
We finished that shoot, and I leave, come back to Austin, and I've taken like over 1,500 photographs, behind the scenes stuff, people doing setup shots, everybody hold your phaser like this, aim it that way, look this way, thousands and thousands of shots of cast. One day he's walking between to go to his dressing room, and I said, and I just called him George. I said, George, can I grab you for literally 5 minutes? And he goes, sure. I said, I'm doing photographs to do the poster work. You're in full costume. I'd like to get you in these shots. He says, absolutely. And it was like, you don't have to tell him anything. He emotes immediately. I go, okay, because he was a barbarian type character. You really should watch the episode. I would tell you, World Enough in Time. It's really a great episode. And it was so awesome. And I took a whole bunch of photographs of him. And then this Christina Moses, who is in television now, she played another character, same thing. So I do a pretty decent poster. And Mark Scott Zachary sees the poster. They do a big deal. Because he's so Hollywood anyway. Mm-hmm. They do a premiere out in Hollywood. They do a premiere at the City Walk in Orlando, which is part of Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I fly out there. We do that. That's about as close to big Hollywood as I've ever gotten. But they did it really.
You took pictures of George Takei and put them on a poster. That's pretty Hollywood to me.
It was fun. It was fun, and it led to a lot. Matter of fact, after the premiere, which was an exceptional. It actually is an exceptional little fan tribute film. I would call it tribute film. I wouldn't even call it a fan film. I walk up to George Takei, and he looks at me, he goes, Texas, and I introduce him to my wife, and we take a picture with her. And it's like, we have photos of me and my wife nowhere in the house. I just want y'all to know that. There's like no pictures in the house of me and my wife. But on our dresser in our bedroom, there's a picture of George Takei and my wife. Anyway, again, big, generous guy. Yeah. And they treated us very well. We got to stay at Universal Studios. We got to eat there. It was just a fun time.
That's cool.
But months later, they premiered online. It's popular. Mark Scott Zachary starts hooking up with me to do some different artwork. And this is where it basically everything just dominoes from this point. Yeah. This is 2006, 2008, 2006. And the poster projects lead to other projects for him, lead to some independent film projects, which leads to someone just picking up and doing some articles on my artwork that lead to Lord of the Rings tribute films. And I don't know if you've gotten to see those, but The Hunt for Gollum and my brain just clicked off. It's okay. Let's pretend like it didn't happen. Those led to another one, led to my doing some independent stuff in the UK, which led to an audio drama company asking if I would be interested in doing their covers of their Brilliance audio releases that led to book covers, and that's leads me up to where I am today. Yeah. That really was the spark that lit the fire, though, doing that World Enough in Time poster. And
it's so interesting how that stuff happens. Like you can literally, I've heard stories where that doesn't happen to somebody till like their 50s or something like that. Like you could literally just, this moment all of a sudden defines the rest of your career. And
Absolutely.
It's just right place, right time, right people, boom. And then after that, everything just kind of falls into place.
And I know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, or you just draw stick figures.
Or you just draw stick figures like Chad.
That.
Chad can't draw.
No. Yeah, Chad, I would say Brian put me onto the silence, and I'm not going to, gush over how awesome it is, but it is awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
No,
I paid him to say that, Chad.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He called me earlier and said, "You better say it."
Say something. I like for people to say something nice to Chad. Otherwise, he might kill us all. So there we go.
And eat the bodies.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes, exactly.
No, it's kind of a running joke with me and Brian about in social media how funny it is that you could put stuff out like consistently, stuff that's really awesome, and it doesn't get noticed, and then you get someone that puts like a stick figure with a little thing and it goes viral and millions of people look at it. So I always have this running joke of like when you all were talking about, for some people in their 50s, all of a sudden they make all these connections and then it just goes and grows and grows and grows. And that's why I just had to say, or just draw some stick figures.
Yeah, or you could just throw something online and it goes viral, and you're like, "Oh, cool! This is my career now."
Yeah,
Chad's like 50 years old. He's like, "Fine, and fine." Just draws a stick figure.
Here's my stick figure.
Works
because of the work that I got to do on these tribute films and in fan productions. Mm-hmm. Has opened the door for every single thing that I've done and that I'm enjoying doing right now. Yeah. The book covers, packaging, marketing, a little bit of video. I still sneak back into that. However, Jeremy, by the way, I will be sending all my video work toward you. We've had that discussion. So because it's not really, for me, it's an extra perk that I can offer somebody when I do their book cover. It's not what exclusively I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did some for Brian, and
he promoted the crap out of you.
I know, and so people are going to say, "I need you to do a video for my upcoming comic book project or this and that." I'm going, got any cover work I can do? And so I when Jeremy hit me up one day on a message, and we were just talking about doing work, and I said, "I'm going to push everything to you." So when people ask me, "I need an opening for my podcast or whatever," I'm like, "This is the guy," and I push it off. Yeah. I'll still do it as a perk to the people who hire me to do their covers, right. But I'm not taking on. I've got so many commission jobs right now. I'll be busy through summer.
That's awesome, man. That's so great.
We've talked a little bit about your career and the many different avenues that you've been able to be creative on. What has been the most significant piece that you've been able to work on?
I would have to say that World Enough in Time poster. Okay. Only because it was like lighting the Mission Impossible fuse. Yeah. Had I not gotten the opportunity to work on that poster and it not be so well received, I don't think I'd be doing. We wouldn't be talking. I mean, I just can't imagine that I would have gotten all the work that I've been able to do. The authors that I've met, the book covers that I've been able, the movie posters, the independent film posters. None of that would have been possible had it not been for that photoshopped poster. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that was done. So 2006, there was an art college in the little town Cedar Park, just south of us. It's right on the edge of Austin, and it is an art school that. Their primary focus was concept artwork for gaming companies that were located down in Austin, and a little bit of concept artwork for other things. But they were fairly well renowned. Well, there was an article in the paper about them. Of course, imposter syndrome kicked in, and I'm like, oh, I'm just a cop and I do pretty posters like one a year. These people don't want to have anything to do with me. And I don't know what happened. Just one day, it was about 2008. I had a lunch. Everybody else had taken off, gone and done something. I was kind of bored. I said, hey, I got an hour to kill. They have an open house going on at that little art college, and I'm going to go over there. And I walked in, and of course, all they see is this police officer walking around, on their campus looking at artwork. And so it got the attention of the owner and his wife, and we became friends. And it turns out that Roger Barcelone, who is been doing illustration work since the late 50s. He is a incredible illustrator, and he did some summer classes. I took those summer classes. We became good friends. They kept wanting me to go to school. Of course, I was full time, and I was moving up through the ranks, and that wasn't a possibility. Well, I retired coming up now on 2 years ago, and they invited me to come to school, and so I got to go to school, and then the pandemic hit. And so I had about a year and a half of school under my belt. And then the pandemic hit and they shut everything down. And so I have not been back. But that short little teeny tiny bit of time there, I've started changing so many things about how I draw, how I do digital painting, matter of fact, I'm forcing myself to transition out of my old style, if you will, into a new, more painterly style. So I'm constantly working on that. So to answer your question, none of this would have existed without that one poster.
So Jeff, it's awesome to hear about, the behind the scenes about your work and what you've found to be most significant in those projects that you loved. Tell us a little bit about some of the lessons that you've learned as an artist. And particularly, I'd love to hear like your process, like what mediums do you use? Do you use oil paint? Do you use digital? And I know you talked a little bit about transitioning your process. So just kind of go into that and then just talk about some of the lessons that you're learning as an artist.
Sure. I think the biggest lesson I learned so far has nothing to do with artwork at all. It's the business of being an artist. I think I am too nice. I have done, I worked for and I'm going to be vague and I apologize. I just don't want to hurt any feelings. I still have friends that work for this company, but I worked for a production and did a lot of fun work. All right. I'm a man. Let's just say it. So, there's a production called Space Command, and it is a science fiction, kind of harkens back to the old Buck Rogers kind of flavor, if you will, Forbidden Planet, that type of thing. I did a lot of poster work for them, a lot of pitch graphic work, a lot of marketing work. And so what I learned in that process is if you let people take advantage of you, they will take advantage of you. I did multiple posters. I did the design work that ended up being for the Comic-Con booth, comic book layouts for their comic that they did, their marketing comic. And they raised in their first Kickstarter program, I think it was like over $1 million. And it all went to paying the actors, paying the special effects, paying everybody except the artist guy. And so, and I kept doing the work because I enjoyed it. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't enjoy it. But what I've learned in that process, the business part of it, is you have to strike the deal up front. and there have to be clear expectations on both sides. And that's helped me have more healthy commission partnerships, if you will. That is business. Now, art wise, I used to, work in ink, on, Bristol board, very traditional, watercolor, acrylic. I did a lot of, I worked for our local hockey team, doing some, I guess, I don't know what you would call it. It was a poster artwork of the players, and they would put originals in their merchandising booth and sell these originals, $200, $300.
Yeah.
I got a portion of that. And that was the last real watercolor work, ink and watercolor work that I had done. Once I learned, when I went to this concept art school for some summer programs, I learned, I worked predominantly in Photoshop, photo compositing, didn't really understand that you could paint in Photoshop until I went to these classes, and one of them was dedicated how to paint in Photoshop. The other was how to paint using Corel Painter. Once I learned these programs in that way, I haven't bought paper, pen, ink, anything. For me, it's faster. You can fix your mistakes, and I make a lot of them. It gives me a lot of flexibility, and I can do client artwork. When they want to change something like a color or maybe even rearranging to a certain degree, I've been able to do that much more quickly using digital techniques. Yeah. So that's really my primary, matter of fact, just completely my realm, medium, if you will.
Yeah.
I am learning, is it Clip Studio Pro?
Yeah.
I got to learn a little bit of that last year. I am impressed with the inking and the pens and the emulated pens and paintbrush and pencils. So for me, who, depending on what the client wants, I want to hop between different programs.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn that program a little bit more. Because it gives a more traditional, you can get more of a traditional look out of it. Yeah. Going to school over in 2019 to 2020, you have to start with the basics. They do not, you don't jump into any digital work until year 3 and 4. So I went back to painting on canvas, drawing on paper, and I'm so glad I did, because it started to change the way my digital work looked. And now I paint more. Matter of fact, I am trying to push completely away from any type of, if I can, push away from any type of photo manipulation, unless a client wants that. I'm trying to do everything in digital painting, if I can. I'm traditionally, for myself as an artist, I've always done like black and white and pen, and recently within the last probably 6-7 months really got into digital painting and love it, because you can paint almost like you're drawing, like you're coloring, and then make this oil effect and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm with you. I love that tool and that process as well.
Let me tell you why I hate Chad. So Chad had like I've been doing.
Let me tell you why I hate my co-host.
Right. So I've been doing, digital art for 5 years now, or 4 years now, and so Chad picks up a digital tablet, buys the program. He's like, you know what? I think I'm going to try coloring. I kid you not. The next thing he posts on Facebook, like a week later, is the cover of the Silence hardback cover. And I'm like, you make me sick. Like Are you serious? This looks like something straight out of Marvel or DC. Like, what are you doing with, like, good grief. And so this is why number 247, why I hate Chad.
Email me the complete list, because I'd be interested.
It's extensive. So there we go.
Thank you. It was just a color by number. I had nothing to do with it.
So Chad, did you did you watch YouTube videos and things like that?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, it was.
Now I'm hating you. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I tapped into the universe and it told me what colors to use.
No,
Jerk.
I just love doing it. I just started thinking about it in terms of like coloring, like, because you're using a pen, so it's like you're coloring. But I just loved it because you could blend it like an oil paint, and so you could just start doing things. And like, let me transition to one thing too that you said about the business side of it. Like I went to art school, and in art school, like, you have to study color and that kind of thing. And a lot of people, when they're coloring, especially in comics, they don't think about like secondary colors and how color is not straight color. Like, if you're going to paint a yellow, it's not just yellow. It's also picking up, red and green from other objects around it. And you can really create depth when you start mixing all that together. But so that's what I just tried to do when I was doing those paintings. I just started incorporating all those things that I thought about before and just never really practiced. So it's really fun, and I love to do it, and I plan on doing more. But the whole reason why I brought that up is because not only is it very interesting to hear about your process in transitioning from traditional materials to digital, but the other side of it too, you mentioned about business, is very important, because in art school, you learn a lot of like technique. And like you said, you start with traditional, and then they'll give you classes later about doing digital. But the one side they often don't hit on is the business side of it.
You're
and
exactly
art,
right.
And art is like a huge business. Like, you have to learn how to, as you are learning, be confident with what you have, set your prices, make connections, network, and all that. So, like, tell us a little bit about your collaboration with other writers and filmmakers, what that looked like. How did you go from I'm just painting these pictures to now I'm working with these other people? What did that look like for you?
So again, originally, since I was working in Photoshop, I got to get the opportunity to do those Lord of the Rings tribute films. Of course, they wanted to emulate the professional posters. So I did that as best I could. It was right on, matter of fact, if you look at the Hunt for Gollum, that's completely Photoshop. And then you look at Born of Hope, which just popped into my head, thank goodness. Right in between is when I learned how to paint in Photoshop and Corel Painter. So when you look at them side by side, which I posted about a week or so ago, even I look at them and go like, oh, that's weird. Because when they contacted me and they said, okay, this is what we want. Here are our characters. This is our Aragorn. This is our this, and this. And they had some pretty professional folks doing their special effects. Their Gollum in the film is beautiful. And it's seen a teeny tiny bit because they don't have that kind of, there was independent film. They didn't have the kind of money. But so I tried to emulate the Lord of the Rings posters using Photoshop techniques. Then I learned the other digital programs, and then I got contacted by actors at Work Studios, and they said, well, okay, we have this tribute film coming out a little bit later. We would like you to do it, but we really want it more painterly, or we want it painted. And I went, well, I can do that. Just now I can do that. Right. But let me show you what my digital painting looks like. And they said, okay, that is great. We'll go that route. And of course I can do those projects so much more quickly. The basic, when I was, so one of the actresses from that was, her boyfriend was a filmmaker and actor in the UK. And he got in contact with me It's the most money I've ever made as an artist. And it was, I was making $1,000 for like a poster. And that was fun. Not just because of the green, but because it was the first real hardcore professional working relationship where you have studios involved and producers involved. And so I got a lot, we did a lot of back and forth conversation through email. Our times were 8 hours apart, so we had to learn that. But it was so educational because I learned, it was the first contract I ever wrote, or I helped, my Roger Barcelone helped me put it together, because he had all 30 years, almost 40 years of experience. It was really fun because they said, this is what we want. This is what it has to look like. This is a comic. Here's originally the comic book that this film we're doing is based on. We need to emulate this black and white style. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I can do that. I had to work with their typography. And I was able to do these posters. The most fun that I had, so that led to the box covers for an audio drama company who did just everything, Jack and the Beanstalk, historical dramas, that kind of stuff, which led to book covers. The most fun I've had, I would say, over the past 10 years is working with indie authors. My filmmaking, matter of fact, the filmmakers I haven't really done a lot of work with them because I got involved with Prose Press, which is one of the new pulp producers. And that's where I did, I think in 1 year, I did 135 cover illustrations. And I'll never do it again because it was horrible. And I sacrificed a lot of quality and style trying to pump out all of these covers. But what was so much fun about that is working with indie authors and so my greatest payoff, I guess is the word I'll use, where I feel great inside, when I smile, is when I do something for an author that they never, where they couldn't have dreamt that they would get this cover or this level of title graphic or the whole package, if you will. That makes me so happy, when they get excited and they promote it. And that's where I get my happiness from. It's not dollars. Indie filmmaking it is not dollars. It doesn't pay a lot. But I have more fun, and I do projects I could never dream of, subject matter I would never dream of. So the basic thing is when I get somebody like the one I'm working on right now, I get a commission request, and it was a first-time author. It was two ladies, and they said, "We've seen your work. We'd like you to do a cover." And I said, "Okay, tell me what the story's about. Give me the description of the characters. What do you want to see on the cover? Understand that the more complicated it is, the price will, the scope will drive the price. Words that I never would have thought I'd have to use." Yep. And she said, well, this is what we like. Our main character in this house in the background, and this, and she's she has this knife and she has these abilities. And so we just want you to show that she has kind of powers. And I said, okay. And
that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. And they're like, I just to make it look good. It was like,
so
that's the great thing in my life.
That's right. That's the great thing about indie authors is they'll say, these little tiny details. Her eyes glow, or the knife glows or things like that. And that's all they care about, and then I can produce something. And then I kind of throw in my own a little spin on it and say, if I was going to get excited about this cover, because now you're on Amazon, everybody's on Amazon, and the covers are very teeny tiny. And so how do you make this cover eye-catching and not something that you can go to Fiverr or one of these other companies and pay $25 for and really get some very bad artwork where I sometimes think the artist is taking advantage of the indie author sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And so I try to, again, even this project came out looking more like something because that's what she wanted. She wanted that classic novel, a fantasy kind of, what do you call urban fantasy style.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like I've learned another lesson in artwork. If you're going to do commission work, you have to sacrifice your own style. Sometimes you have to sacrifice what you think is best. Now, I do a lot of, I call them commission partnerships, because I try to work with the authors in such a way that that I'm getting them, I'm trying to interpret what they want. But I always give out warnings. Like I'll say, you've written this character. How long? Well, I'll say something. How long have you worked on this book? And they'll say, 2 years with my daughter or something. Mm-hmm. And I say, okay, please understand that as I start into this process, I will never be able to replicate the protagonist in the way that you see them in your mind. Right. I just can't do it. I will get as close as I can, or I will do something for you that hopefully you will be happy with, that will positively represent your character or setting or whatever. And then it's a little back and forth, and then we set up the contract. Sometimes they're still verbal. They're not always written. I would, if it looks like it's going to be, the scope is going to be big, if the scope is going to be big, there's going to be a lot of redos. Anything like that is going to get written out, even if it's a simple one pager. But I work with them. If it's something as simple as the eye color's wrong, or the hair should be shorter, things like that, it's a back and forth until we hit that image that they go, thank you. That's more than I could have dreamt of, or something similar to that. And I'm going like, that makes me happy. Yeah. And I get excited about that. When I was working for the Prose Productions, Prose Press, I just worked with the editor, and that's a lot tougher because, well, no, it's not. It's actually easier because you do the artwork and the editor takes the brunt of it from the author if it's not what they want. Yeah. But I much prefer to work with authors like I'm working right now. And some of them just start to trust you. They say, I need a monster tearing apart an aircraft carrier. It's a big tentacle thing. It's a kraken. And I'm like, I'll talk to you in about a week or two, Yeah. And I just do something, and I'll sketch it out, send them a sketch. They go for it. And depending on the author, I'll either not contact them at all during that time until I get it to almost to a finish point, or I'll say, here's the direction I'm going. This is the color. They know my color palette now. I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so I love what's funny. It's becoming popular now. Thor Ragnarok. One of the reasons I love Thor Ragnarok is that is my color palette. Yeah. That whole movie is my color palette. Yeah. And so I had been doing that, greens and fluorescents and blacklight colors, if you will, for a long time. And now it's popular. But I just hit a point where I say, okay, it's finished enough that I will show it to the author, and they're like, yes, that's great. That's perfect. And then I'll detail it out as best I can. And then always remembering where it's going to be, how it's going to be presented, and try to get them something that they can be excited about. I love doing a series. One of the authors that I work with has doing an anthology series called Monster Earth. I love Godzilla. It wasn't in my top 5, but Godzilla movies are all in my top 10. I love kaiju, and
there's like 6 of them, right?
His series that he was doing is called Monster Earth, and it's that's the one that I need the Kraken attacking an aircraft carrier, and this world, instead of the Japanese using a sneak attack and planes, they have a Kraken, and then they attack Pearl Harbor with a Kraken. Okay, as an artist, you go like, that's crazy talk. No, you don't. I'm going like,
Neat.
Okay, stop telling me. Yes. We're not going to talk. I don't want to talk anymore. I just want to go. And I went crazy on that cover. Yeah. I went crazy, and it's one of my favorites. And so then the second one, they said, okay, we want the same style, but now we want these 2 monsters. And then I'm doing the third one right now. And it's, I think it has like 5 monsters on the cover. That's a pretty big scope when you're creating 5 different creatures, and it takes a lot of time. But I've worked with these folks, and I'm not going to like charge them tons and tons of money for because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and we've created that partnership.
Yeah.
But I had somebody approach me a while back and say, I would like you to do a paint of this cover. And it had 9 different fantasy type, steampunky type characters. And I said, okay, let me put a quote together. And it was not huge. But it was bigger than what I would charge for your average everyday cover. And they said, we'll get back with you. It was real quick. And since that quote, I've taken on 5 more commissions. And so now if they approach me again, I'm not going to be able to work on this until, if I do end up working on it, it's not going to be till the fall of this year.
Yeah.
Again, I love working with indie authors because they come up. Where else can you work on a vampire Western, they're
all looking for that like new idea. So there's so many ideas. Yeah.
And I think a lot with indie authors and indie creators in general, they don't have a publisher telling them no.
Yeah.
So you can literally do whatever you want to do, and no one's standing in the way saying, nope, you can't do that because that doesn't sell. Well, if you do it, maybe it will.
Yeah.
And that's opened the door to understanding Kickstarter better. What I'm actually getting back into comics, but not mainstream comics. Well, I'm not buying any.
No, I'll tell you what, man.
I think my wife's asleep, so yeah. So I'm buying it, but I'm buying indie stuff. When I try to buy indie stuff, and that's why I watch your guys' programs all the time, because you're starting to talk about comics, and I can invest wisely.
Yeah.
And some of the folks in Calderon,
JD Calderon.
Yeah. JD, thank you.
Yeah.
I was watching the program where y'all interviewed him, and when he explained how magic worked in his world, I went like, "Oh my God, I'm buying these!" It took that much, and that's what I get excited about now. When in comic books things, I can't do comics. I could do a comic cover, but I couldn't do sequential art. It's so you guys that can do it. I envy you, but I've just surrendered that it's not something that I can do. And that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Well, I brought you up, a friend of mine, we were talking about the differences between a cover artist and a sequential artist. Like, cause we were talking about why do like some covers look so much better than the interior art. And I'm like, well, some people, like, that is their specialty. They just do covers because that's what they love to do. And if they did that for every page, it would be 2 years before you'd get an issue out or something.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So like, what his name is Alex Garner. Are you familiar with Alex Garner? Yeah. Worked on, oh my gosh, Wildcats in the 80s.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Okay. Again, he has transitioned now to where he can do internal art. He's a fantastic artist. But what I'm most drawn to of his work is his cover work, his digital art. And I love it. I have like 5 signed prints. Oh, wow. Because I love him so much. I threw the money out there to get something, and I look at them. It's so weird. I sit here and I'll just sit at my desk. Sometimes I'll go, yeah, okay, I want to do that. I want to do that, and I think about it. But my newest deal is I'm falling in love with the art, like World of Warcraft art. Oh, Hearthstone cards. I love that. And I love watching the videos of these guys creating and how fast, even they say, okay, I've got to do this project in 4 hours. And then they show you their little 20-minute video on how they did this in 4 hours. And then I feel really bad about myself when it's over.
You're like, what am I doing with my time? Yeah. Oh my God.
If I could do that in 4 hours, I would be so pleased, and they say, oh, we have to work really fast because we're given 20 projects. And, and I'm going like, okay, wow. Yeah. But I'm pushing my style. I want to try to push it into that area, stylized, I'll never work for Wizards of the Coast. I'm never going to do D&D artwork. It's just not something, because those, the guys that are doing that are incredible. I mean, they're just incredible guys. I love learning from them, the ones that'll teach, Yeah. That's why I asked Chad, did you look on YouTube? Because I actually had to do a project for Prose recently that was more like a comic book style cover. And I hadn't done that in 15 years, maybe. Yeah. And, oh man, going back into that, it was crazy. I was watching YouTube video after YouTube video and learning how to color differently and trying to emulate another artist. That was the initial desire. Yeah. Boy, that's painful too, because it is a great artist, But then they said they came. I got the editor call me and he says, "Okay, we've got this." It was one of their best properties, one of their best writers. And I love him, and his name is Barry Reese. And to be able to work on this cover or this series of covers was that was a dream come true. And then I get this thing. I said, show Barry, let him tell me what he says. I can take it. If he hates it, just tell me. I love him. I won't let it hurt me. Yeah. And they said, well, he likes it, but, and I started crying. So I really didn't hear anything after that, but no, he says he likes it, but he prefers your style. Yeah. He wants to get away from the comic style that they've been doing. He wants to transition to your kind of painterly style. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And now that project led to another. I wish I could announce it. Oh man, it's another one of their awesome properties. Yeah. But again, I am in a time. I wish I was 20 years younger, just physically, not mentally. I'm about 20 mentally, but I'm pushing my style in a different direction. And I'm excited. That makes it exciting for me.
I think as an artist, that is probably like trying new things, pushing yourself, challenging yourself to try new things and go step out of your comfort zone is one of the scariest yet most rewarding things you could probably ever do.
Yeah, unless unless what I always do is, and I laugh because again, it's imposter syndrome, and I know we've talked about that before, but it's like, well, I don't know if I could really. So, you always think my art's not going to develop a fandom. I'm not Alex Ross. I'm not going to be at Comic-Con, but as long as I get that author happy at the end of a project, that's the payoff for me.
Yeah.
That and the ability to start changing.
Yeah, I mean that's why I am doing what I am doing now, is because my friend Brian said, help me make a YouTube video for my Kickstarter, and every single one after that, I keep pushing myself, talking to Chad and doing stuff for him. I did things. I made a video for Chad using techniques that I had never done before.
Love that.
And like every single time, every single video that I make for anybody, it's like, let's do something new. And that, on top of that delivery that you were talking about, where it's like you hand it to somebody and they're like, yeah, this is exactly what I thought, or like you're saying, this is more than what I thought could think of in my head. That's gold. That's what is going to keep you like getting up and like putting in the work every day.
Absolutely. Or I call it not going to sleep. When I lay down, seriously, you lay down and you go, like last night I was thinking, okay, I have to do a rock monster tomorrow. And I'm laying in bed, my wife's asleep and I'm going, okay, it's going to look like this. No, that'll look like Ben Grimm. No, and you're thinking about it and it's 2:00 in the morning.
Yep.
And then you go, you better go to sleep or you're not going to be waking up to do this tomorrow. But that is so exciting. And one of the things I got reignited in recently is that working in After Effects. And I love motion graphics. And I love all the things you can do today digitally with motion graphics. But again, I watch motion comics and a little tear will come into my eye because I go, oh, if only I could do that. Yeah. But I'm too old to learn that. I'm in a happy place right now. Was it Clayton Murray? One of the interviews that Brian did some time ago was, he says, I'll never work for DC. I'll paraphrase it. I'll never work for DC. I'll never work for Marvel, but I'm having so much fun doing what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And I go, wow, that's an interesting way, that's a nice place to be. And so I thought about it. And recently I kind of found my place, find the similar situation. Mm-hmm. Again, I never imagined I'd be getting all these people asking me to do little videos, and thank God Jeremy and I spoke, because that's what his love. Most of all this video work is funny because I was interested in it, but I really got into it with my church. When we did a startup for our church, no one had any inkling of how to work in video. And we were fairly contemporary church in that visual sound, all of that was very contemporary. And I was doing little videos like, I may not say this because Disney may sue me. No, this is many years ago and it doesn't exist anymore. But I did I took Star Wars and the scene where C-3PO and R2-D2 are going into Jabba's palace, and they're at the door, and the robotic eyeball comes out, and is talking to him. Well, I took that and with that in After Effects, I put my pastor talking to this eyeball and things like that. So we would do these things, and I love doing that. And then I left it for a while and have gotten back into After Effects. I kind of wish I didn't, because it's then I'm now seeing things I would love to do. Especially
is insane because it can do so many things. And you think about, like, you start looking at some of those things, and it's like it's so deep that it's kind of overwhelming. You're like standing at the edge of the boat overlooking like the Marianas Trench, right? Like it's just insane. I'm so scared right now.
It's like when somebody, like, you're opening your mind to a universe, and you go, okay, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Oh, too much. Just close it. I don't want to be cosmically aware, and you slam the door shut. But After Effects is incredible. And it works in that layer of like Photoshop promotion mentality. So I love it. Anyway, we're off. But does that answer your question, Chad? I talked about it was a lot for a process, but
no, it was awesome, especially just to hear, your process of the business side or the practical side of like working with people and your development and that kind of thing. So no, it was great.
For sure. Cool. No, it was awesome, Jeff. I think unfortunately we have to wrap things up. But we would love actually to have you back on
anytime.
I mean, you being an honorary dingo now, sir, you have an open ticket to jump right in, tell Chad how much you hate him and then, dip out if you want to. No, I did mention this before.
Okay. I'll tell him I hate him.
I mentioned this before, but we will be having some special topical shows, and one will probably be Star Wars, and we would love to have you back for that.
I'd love it. I love it. This is one of the awesome things about the last 2 years.
Yes.
Talking to people, meeting you guys. How would we have met?
We wouldn't have.
That's right. Maybe we would have seen each other at a convention. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that Morris, crazy maniac, fez-wearing nut, I want to call him the Nexus, because he is like the guy who has opened all of these other doors for me, all of these other people, all of these other authors, artists, projects, possibilities. Yeah. I think he doesn't recognize how the valuable what he does has such great value.
Yeah, no, he doesn't understand the impact he has on all of us. Like the fact that, like, because like you said, this wouldn't be happening between us right now if it weren't for that man. And we've had plenty of Nevermorians on the show. We've got more coming this season. Mm-hmm. And it's very much a tribe that is super encouraging, and like we literally like the rising tide mentality is, like, it comes across at the very beginning a little cheesy, but when you see it in action, it's moving.
Absolutely.
Like it's literally like everybody in this group wants the other to succeed. Absolutely. And so we are all literally rising together because we want each other to. Yep. And we want to support each other, and we want to get other people involved. It's an inclusive thing that we all want. Hey, you're over here. There's room at the table. Come on.
Absolutely.
I think that is, especially right now in the last few years in indie comic circles specifically, that is rare. And I think, there are pockets of that, but I think this is a good group to be a part of. And Brian is our fearless fez-wearing leader.
Absolutely. Well, any group that rule one is that you have to be positive and support other people is that's the group I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Even last year, the internet opened up and showed so much negative, unfathomable levels of negativity.
Yeah.
And I've had so much fun since last August meeting new people, even if it's just names on a chat thing, but you get a sense of people by it, and it was hilarious when on Halloween you posted a picture. My wife and I are watching Halloween. I said, "Oh my God, honey, we're watching Halloween," and I sent you a quick picture.
Yes,
and it's like, and you're probably going like this. Who is this guy? No,
it was great, but it's so funny and interesting how even though during a pandemic and during just craziness in the last year, we have found, because of technology, we're still building community, and it's interesting how God has used this to bring more people into each other's lives in ways that we, like you said, we never would have otherwise.
No.
And so I'm in that way, I'm thankful for those effects of this terrible time that we've been in. And I'm looking forward to what that brings in the future. So the last thing before we go, we have a wonderful little ditty that we like to do with guests, and it is the Dastardly Dingoes flashcard round.
Oh, okay. I was worried it was something else.
We like to have
to describe it.
Yeah. Jeremy, take it away, sir.
Yeah, so I've got this deck of cards over here, and I pulled one off the top. This is.
I'm terrified. I'm going, okay, I'm terrified. Go ahead.
As opposed to from the middle. What is something that you like that other people do not like most people do not like? This could be like a food or a movie or whatever. Something that you like that is an unpopular opinion.
Oh, wow. An unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
This is how we get you.
Yeah, that's
a hard one.
It is a hard one. So I'll put it here's my answer. Most everything I do is not generally liked by most of the people around me. Meaning, I have a hand. No, it's like you start off the program, we're all nerds. That's established. And most of my friends and connections are not nerds. My wife is not a nerd.
Yeah.
So I think it's nerdy things, I look forward to talking, when my son comes over, we talk for 4 hours about Star Wars. That's my one guy that I talk to Star Wars about. Oh, and I have one friend at work who is interested in Marvel. So I talk Marvel with him. Yeah. But other than that, I've been around cops for the last 30 years.
Right.
And they come in my office and they sit down and we handle whatever little problem is. I don't lean back and go, "So what'd you think of The Mandalorian?" It's when you find somebody that can sit there and say, "Oh, I like," and then you immediately start talking for 4 hours about Mandalorian.
Yeah.
They're just so few. I've been blessed to have a couple of guys. My former boss, the chief, is when you walk into his office, it looks very police professional. It looks really just like you imagine a chief of police office would look. Yeah. And then you sit there, if you go sit in the chair for a second and you're talking to him and you're fixated on him. And then if there's a break for a moment and you turn around and then there's like Darth Vader and there's all of these stormtroopers, all of this stuff on the top of his shelf over, to the right where you can't really see it if you come to his doorway. Yeah. And I was lucky I found a kindred spirit. So it's really finding other nerds and other geeks. Most of the guys I've been around with for the past, even more than 30, 35 years, it's all been cop stuff. And finding those guys that like Marvel and finding those guys that like Star Wars was really tough. But when you find them, boy, that's the first topic of conversation, So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing we nerds, when we find each other, we're like, aha.
Mm-hmm. It's like school, you know. It's like I hated cliques and I hated groups in school, and then you grow up and you go, oh, I'm so glad that's over.
Nope.
Yeah. It's life.
Now it's adult time. Now it's the adult version of this,
and it hurts worse.
Oh man. Well, before we head out, Jeff, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Sure. Very easy. It's Plasmafire Graphics, www.plasmafiregraphics.com. I have a webpage. I do Facebook, a little bit of Instagram. Most recently, in the past couple of years, I don't get near Twitter. Can't stand Twitter.
Wise man.
I have an ArtStation page, but the fastest way they can get in contact with me is my website, and there's contact information there. And if not, they can Plasmafire Graphics on Facebook. I'm usually talking to a lot of folks there on Facebook. So
awesome, great. Well, thank you so much for being on. This
thank you guys.
Awesome. We can't wait to have you back.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And thank you all for tuning in to the Dastardly Dingoes podcast. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also hit that bell to get notified when we have a new episode. And as always, have fun, be safe, and remember, the weed of crime bears bitter fruit, kids. That was for you, Jeffrey. See you guys next time.
Take care.